So, what does it actually mean to be alive? It sounds like such a simple question, right? But the answer, well, it's way more complex and fascinating than you might think. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and unravel the secrets of life itself. I mean, it seems obvious, doesn't it? One is, well, a rock, and the other is a living, breathing, fluffy animal. But here's the thing, when you get right down to the atomic level, they're both made of the same basic stuff, carbon, oxygen, hydrogen. So what's the secret ingredient? What really separates the living from the non-living? And it turns out the secret isn't in the building blocks at all. It's all about the constant dynamic activity happening inside that rabbit. Life isn't really a thing, it's a process. You could even say it's a verb, not a noun. You see, to stay in this constant state of doing, every single living thing has to solve a whole series of fundamental problems. Think of it like a daily to-do list that your body has to check off every single day. If it doesn't, well, it's game over. For this breakdown, we're going to focus on the big four challenges. You've got to get fuel, release the energy from that fuel, move all the essential supplies around, and then, of course, get rid of all the toxic junk that's left over. Let's tackle them one by one. First up, the constant energy crisis. Every living thing is basically an energy-hungry machine. But how do they get that fuel in the first place? And, maybe even more important, how do they convert that fuel into actual usable power? Well, here on Earth, it pretty much boils down to two main strategies. You've got your autotrophs, the self-feeders. Think of plants. They're like the ultimate solar-powered chefs, making their own food. And then you've got the heterotrophs, the other feeders. That's us. We have to go out and consume other organisms to get our energy. So these autotrophs, they have this master plan called photosynthesis. And I know this chemical equation looks a little intimidating, but trust me, it's really just a recipe. Plants take in some carbon dioxide and water, they use sunlight as the oven, and bam, they create glucose, which is just a sugar that acts as their food. And, lucky for us, they release oxygen as a byproduct. Okay, so whether you made your food or you ate it, now you have the raw fuel. But that's kind of like having a log of wood. A log doesn't power a house until you actually set it on fire, right? So how do living cells burn their fuel to release all that precious energy? And this brings us to a super common mix-up. When I say the word respiration, you're probably thinking about breathing, in and out. But is that the whole story? The answer is a huge no. They're not the same thing at all. See, breathing is just the physical part, the mechanical act of getting air into your lungs. But respiration, that's the chemical magic happening inside your cells, where oxygen is used to unlock the energy packed inside your food. So breathing is really just the first step in a much bigger, more important process. And it turns out there are a couple of ways this can go down. There's aerobic respiration, which uses oxygen and is super efficient. It gives you a huge energy payout, and that's what we do most of the time. But sometimes, in a pinch, like when you're sprinting and your muscles can't get oxygen fast enough, they can switch to anaerobic respiration. Now, it's way less efficient, but it's a quick fix. And that lactic acid it produces? Yeah, that's what causes that burn in your muscles. All right, so we've got the energy unlocked. That's great. But what good is a power plant if you can't get the electricity to all the different houses in a city? Complex living things face the exact same problem. How do you deliver fuel and oxygen to trillions of individual cells? This is where the logistics network comes in. In us, humans, this system is an absolute masterpiece of engineering. You've got the heart, that's your central pump. Then you have the blood vessels, which are like this massive network of highways and tiny little side streets. And the blood itself? Well, that's the fleet of cargo trucks, carrying everything from oxygen and nutrients to waste products. So let's peek inside one of those cargo trucks. Our blood. It's mostly this liquid called plasma that carries everything along. But the real heroes of the story are the red blood cells. They're the ones hauling all the oxygen. And that tiny 1% that's left over? That's basically your body's emergency services. White blood cells to fight infections and platelets to patch up any leaks. And plants, they've got their own super clever plumbing system too. They have two main pipelines. The xylem is like a one-way street, pulling water and minerals straight up from the roots. The phloem, on the other hand, is a two-way system, distributing all that sugary food made in the leaves down to the rest of the plant, wherever it's needed. Okay, think about it. All this activity, making energy, building things, moving supplies, it creates a ton of waste.
And just like in a city, if you don't have a good system for getting rid of the trash, things get real toxic real fast. This brings us to our final big challenge, taking out the trash.
Now, it is really important to get this right. When we say waste, we're not talking about the parts of your lunch that your body couldn't digest. That's a totally different process. Excretion is specifically about removing the toxic chemical byproducts that your cells create while they're working. It's basically the exhaust from your body's engine. And of course, different organisms have different ways of dealing with it. We have our kidneys, which are these incredibly sophisticated filters for our blood. Plants have a simpler approach. They can let waste gases out through tiny pores in their leaves. And here's a really clever trick. They just dump some of their solid waste into leaves that are going to fall off in the autumn anyway. Talk about efficient. So, we've looked at how living things get fuel, release energy, transport supplies, and get rid of waste. But the real secret of life, the real magic, isn't found in any one of these processes by itself. It's in the beautiful, intricate way they all work together, like a symphony. So, let's just do a quick recap. Nutrition gets the fuel. Respiration unlocks the energy. Transportation delivers all the goods. And excretion takes out the trash. You see how it's all one big continuous loop? Each part absolutely needs all the others for the whole thing to work. And this brings us right back to where we started. Life isn't really defined by what something is, but by what it does. It's not about a specific shape or being made of certain materials. It's about this nonstop, incredible dance of chemical reactions. And as long as that music is playing, life goes on. And that leaves us with a fascinating, kind of mind-bending question to chew on. If life is fundamentally just a set of self-sustaining chemical processes, could we one day build a machine that's truly alive? What do you think? Thanks for joining me for this breakdown.